kiss the hands. And though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. And so it piled up to the ceiling, and coffee grounds, potato peelings, brown bananas, rats and peas, chunks of sour cottage cheese. It filled the can, it covered the floor, it cracked the window, it blocked the door. With bacon rinds and chicken bones, drippy ends of ice cream cones, prune pits, peach pits, orange peel, floppy lumps of cold oatmeal, pizza crusts and withered greens, soggy beans and tangerines, crusts of black burned buttered toast, grizzly bits of beefy roast. The garbage rolled on down the hall. It raised the roof, it broke the wall. Greasy napkins, cookie crumbs, globes of gooey bubble gum, cellophane from green bologna, rubbery blubbery macaroni, peanut butter caked and dried, curdled milk and crusts of pie, moldy melons, dried up mustard, eggshells mixed with lemon custard. Cold French fries and rancid meat. Yellow lumps of cream of wheat. At last the garbage reached so high that it finally touched the sky, and all the neighbors moved away, and none of her friends would come to play. And finally Sarah Cynthia Stout said, "Okay, I'll take the garbage out." But then, of course, it was too late. The garbage reached across the state. From New York to the Golden Gate, and there the garbage she did hate. Poor Sarah met an awful fate that I cannot right now relate, because the hour is much too late. But children, remember Sarah Stout, and always take the garbage out. Lamplighter Apartments in Golden Valley, Minnesota?
Well, I came to Minnesota, to Minneapolis, in June of 1969 to work for 1 year with the Pillsbury Company. And 2 girls that were already working there invited me to live in their apartment with them in their extra bedroom.
I got there in the fall of '68. I taught in Robbinsdale area schools, and 2 buddies of mine, and Jim Dolan and Jerry Remness, moved into the Lamplighter Apartments. We had the first floor inside, which was the place to be.
I was on the 2nd floor outside, not the place to be.
Tell us about how you met at the Lamplighter.
Well, I'll start that one out. I had a snowmobile that had crashed the winter before, and I was working on the snowmobile to fix the crash in the front of it. So I was out in the courtyard.
And I was out in the courtyard just walking around, and I walked by his patio, and I had never seen a snowmobile, so I just asked him, "What's that?" And he told me.
Tell us about your first date.
Well, that was around Labor Day. So I asked her if she wanted to go to the Minnesota State Fair with me.
And I accepted, and I rode on rides I never would have ridden on if I wasn't trying to impress him. It was pretty scary.
Yeah, I like to go to the State Fair. I used to look at the animal barns, and one of my favorites were the big horses, the percherons that would stand about 6.5 feet tall. And then always visited our neighbors, our relatives, the Innisvets, which is the other side of the family. They were corn breeders, and they always had a place at the state fair. So we would go in there, sign up for a free bushel of corn, which I never won, and they'd give us a pencil that said, "Innisfit hybrid seed corn."
Tell us about the sailboat date.
Well, you can tell about the sailboat, and I'll tell them about the date.
Well, I had built a sailboat. I actually built 2 sailboats, but this one was the first one. It was 4 feet wide and 10 feet long, and it was like a surfboard with a sail on it. And I got my cousin Polly to sew the sail for me, and it worked pretty well. It was just flat, room enough for 2, so we started out in Medicine Lake.
Yes, I think it was probably my 2nd or 3rd date with him. Yes, we were going sailing on Medicine Lake, and he capsized the sailboat, and so we both went into Medicine Lake.
She looked pretty good wet.
Grandpa, tell us about when you introduced Grandpa. Grandpa, tell us about when you introduced Grandma to your parents, Peter and Lena.
Oh yes, we went to Sacred Heart to introduce her to my parents, and just before we went inside, I told her, "Why don't you wait here? I've got to go inside and make sure Grandma's got her teeth in."
I'm not sure if those are the same teeth that Jim has now or not, but and I recall him saying that the two things his dad wanted to know about me was whether I was a Republican and whether or not I was a Lutheran.
What was the right answer to those questions?
Yes to the first and no to the second, because there weren't Lutherans in North Carolina.
But I mean, what was the desirable answer?
Yes to both.
Both yes and
Republican.
yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about snowmobiling.
Well, we did a lot of courting on the snowmobile. that winter, and we would ride. I would be on my knees driving, and my feet would be in back, and she would straddle my legs. And we had worked out this code. It was either 1, 2, or 3. So 1 was
Feet up.
no. It was, are you okay? I think so.
Okay.
And 2 was
Feet up, then.
feet up, and 3.
Well, slow down.
No.
Well, it was 49 years ago.
Yeah. 3 was I love you.
Oh. Well, and the part of Dad and Grandpa that I knew the best when we got married was the back of his head. Because I looked at it a lot that winter, looking behind him on the snowmobile.
Tell us something funny about your wedding.
I'll tell about the night before the groom's dinner. We had it over in her parents' place on Lake Tillery. They had a cabin there, and the groomsmen were supposed to tell something about me to introduce me to the rest of the people. And Cousin Wilson was first, and after him, no one else wanted to say anything, because what he said was, "Well, folks, you ought to know that John is a bedwetter." And he also belongs to the Ku Klux Klan. And he said you can always tell him at the rallies, because he's the one in the rubber sheet.
Well,
But
unbeknownst.
Yeah. Her aunt's uncle was actually in the class.
No, Aunt Florine's father was actually a member of the Klan. Well, and the funny thing about our wedding itself was all of the groomsmen were from Minnesota. And the wedding coordinator was a friend of the family. She and her husband owned the local funeral parlor, but she did wedding coordinating at church. And so these people would come to go into the church, and they would tell one of these Minnesotans that they were my favorite cousin or my favorite aunt or something, and so they'd take them up to the front of the church, and Wileen would have to go tell them, no, you gotta move them. And so she was in this war the whole time with these 4 groomsmen from Minnesota, trying to get them to seat people in the right places.
So they came up with a nickname for Wileen, Sarge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does this interview qualify as talent?
Why does this interview qualify as talent? Because it takes quite a bit of talent for 2 people to come up with this.
So I have a follow-up question. When you fell into the lake, did you have to get new cell phones? Like, did they get all...
50 years ago, Jay.
Yeah, I know, but the kids were probably thinking that. When you fell into the lake, did you have to get new cell phones? Did they get all wet?
He was teasing the kids.
No.
No cell phones back then.
So you can survive.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Thank you for being